Okay, thank you very much, TJSU. That's a report that went out earlier, but it does give us sort of a background. So here we are. Well, first of all, to help us look at this, get what the perspectives are. Let's say we have a sort of so to speak, a military perspective and a civilian perspective and by that I mean that we have a couple of experts to talk with this morning. First of all, we have Group Captain Sadiq Garba, who retired, who is on the phone. He's a security consultant, and we also have Mr. Yemi Makwadero, a strategy and governance expert. But to go to the Group Captain first. Good morning, Group Captain.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for making time for us. Give me your reaction, please, to the state of affairs, the asking by the National Assembly for the service chiefs to step aside.
Okay. Thank you very much. First, let me say this is not the first time that the National Assembly, either both houses or either of the houses, calling for the service chiefs to leave. I've heard that. I've also heard the response by the presidential spokesman saying that it is the prerogative of the president and commander-in-chief to decide whether this service chiefs leave or not. Now, there is a lot to be said on both sides. On the side of the National Assembly, when we look at global best practices and the principle of democratic control of the armed forces, which is a principle which stipulates that the civilians in a democracy should hold the reins of the military if we're in a democracy. Now, under this observation, there are things with regards to the control of the armed forces which fall as the responsibility of the legislature. There are also things which fall on the executive branch, that is the president and the commander-in-chief. On the side of the president and commander-in-chief, he has the right to nominate. He also has the right, after nomination, to fire the service chiefs at any time he wants. The legislature, on the other hand, they don't have the right to nominate. They don't have the right to appoint. But they have the right under even the Nigerian Constitution to design laws which will put a check on how the president does his appointment. And this is why I see the lacuna that we are having in Nigeria. If you check all the relevant extant documents regarding this issue at hand, first is the Constitution. Unfortunately, the Constitution did not say anything about the tenure of the service chiefs from page to page. The next document you might probably look at is the Armed Forces Act, which is an act of the legislature which was passed. Unfortunately, again, this act did not say anything about the tenure of the service chiefs, apart from the fact that the president will nominate and the National Assembly will confirm. So, honest, I think we left the boss right from the beginning. Because if you do a comparative analysis with other countries, you will find that either in their constitution or in a legislation, there are areas where the legislature came in and said, yes, Mr. President will appoint them, but in appointing them, he has to look at this and this and then specify also the tenure. In fact, in some constitutions, even the qualifications, which means while the president has the power to appoint, it is not that he can appoint just anybody. While the president has the power to appoint, it is not that he can appoint for an indefinite period of time, but it is the work of the legislature to put these checks and balance in place. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we do not have that check and balance in place. Okay. Now, so you see, the president or commander-in-chief, either this current president or any other president, has been given a carte blanche as far as the issue of appointment or selection of head of the armed services is there. And I think, to be fair to the country, when you took our national interest, when you look even at the professional interest of the armed forces, this gap should be closed. Now, in arguing on this, let me answer some people who say the terms and conditions of service for the service chiefs are specified in the Harmonized Terms and Conditions of Service 2017 amended. My argument with those people is that I have mentioned Constitution. I have mentioned the Armed Forces Act. What is the status of that harmonized terms and conditions of service? Okay, is it part of the Constitution? Is it an act of National Assembly? It is neither.
So, Group Captain.
So you see the harmonized act and conditions of service does not have legal weight. But that is not even the end of the argument. Even when you look at the harmonized term and condition of service, in section 03.10, it talks about length of service, where it says a lieutenant general, all the service chiefs are lieutenant general, they will live at the age of 58. The only general among them is the CDS, who is the four-star general. He should live at the age of 60. I think all the four personalities have passed that.
Okay.
But there is a confusion in the harmonized term of conduct. Now, after stating this 58 and 60, it goes to section 11.08, where specifically it says tenure of service chiefs. What does this section say? It says the president will appoint them for a tenure of 2 years, which can be extended for another period of 2 years. Now, if we stop at that, there is no confusion. The confusion goes when you go back to section 11.09.
Okay, so group captain, can you hear me now? So that we'll make this interactive. So are you saying now that the honors now lies with the National Assembly for them to now make another law that will specify the tenure and as well as the age limit for the service chiefs? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That is the point. So to be honest with you,
Group Captain, 1 second, please. As I said at the top, we're very grateful to have you, but we also have Mr. Yemi Makpaderu, who is a strategy and governance expert, and so we'll take a perspective from him as you also listen. Good morning, Mr. Makpaderu.
Good morning, Mr. Folari. Good morning, Mr.
Thank you very much indeed for making time for us this morning. You've heard, quite frankly, the way it has been laid out, particularly the point that was made at the very top about the concept of democracy being that the military is going to be subject to a civilian authority, which is indeed what the president is, and that's why he's the commander-in-chief. So that part of it probably is satisfied. But all the other observations that have been made, so that it seems that on one hand you can't even say the president is acting ultra vires, because as has been pointed out by Garba Shehu, presidential spokesman, the prerogative is the president's, and for now the commander-in-chief, to use his alternate title, says that I'm cool with the chiefs, the service chiefs, the way they are. There's a problem there. Do you also agree, as has been suggested, that there is a lacuna that the National Assembly needs to fix by coming up with a law?
Well, thank you again, Mr. Folarin, and thank you, Mr. Asupo James, for having me on this program again. I have listened very well, attentively, to the retired captain, and I think he has spoken very eloquently. I want to endorse his comment that the National Assembly has the right, to act as a check and balance, to the executive. And so the resolution that the Senate passed yesterday, again, is not the first time, but it is not out of order. It is all in the exercise, of their oversight function. When we talk about having separation of powers in a democracy, we should also understand that the different organs of government, though independent, are mutually dependent. And having said that, the issue of, enacting a law or provision in the existing laws that will fix a tenure for service chiefs, for me, is not really, the global best practice. I agree that this happens in some countries, especially countries that have witnessed internecine wars and the rest. And as a matter of, balancing power, the service chiefs are made to serve a particular tenure so that the president does not have the power to hire and fire indiscriminately. However, the concept of commander-in-chief already, empowers whoever is a president with the powers to hire and fire. You do not want to have a deadlocked situation in period of crisis, for instance, where the commander-in-chief is not satisfied with the performance or the conduct of a service chief or the service chiefs, and then he is encumbered to take decisions about removing them, reshuffling them, or retiring them, just because they are entitled to a tenure of service the way it applies, to elected political officers. So to that extent, I think for some level of stability and meeting emergent conditions that are possibly not envisaged, I do not think we need to go the whole hog of ensuring that service chiefs have fixed tenures. However, in terms of convention, we have seen in Nigeria, unfortunately, the president is a retired general, and he knows that even historically, there is a convention in terms of the appointment and the tenure of service chiefs. But again, like the presidential spokesperson said, the president still, reserves or has a prerogative to decide to retain or to remove any service chief. And the considerations may not be things that are, open to the rest of us. But I also understand the other side of the argument, that when something appears not to be working, there is a need, to have a change. And that is why when football teams are not doing well, in professional football teams, the first victim is the manager of the team. But again, we need to also look at what possibly will have been the situation today, if we didn't have these service chiefs that we have. Could we have been in a worse situation?
Indeed.
So it's neither here nor there, but that we are in a challenging period in terms of security is never in doubt. And I believe, just like the Chief of Army Staff said a few days ago, that for the upteenth time, it is a business of everyone. The security is a business of everybody. And I think if we look at it in this manner, we may begin to have answers to some of the security challenges that we have in the country.
Let me bring it back to the group captain. And thank you very much, Yemi. The point made there, and I think both of you have actually underlined the point that at the end of the day, the military is subject to a civilian authority in all democracies, and we are one. The president is representing that concept because he's a civilian president. But the whole question of what is it now? The oversight functions of the National Assembly, I think, is important here, because just about everybody, you might say it isn't everybody that's an expert, but most people believe that we do need a change in the guard, so to speak. Yeah, the president is a retired general. He's an expert himself, and he also, he can call on a lot more expertise than probably most of us can when we discuss the subject matter. But there is a civilian groundswell that this particular team, let me use the football analogy, this particular team can do with some new buy-ins. We do need a different set of professionals to work with us. Now, that's a problem right there, perhaps from the point of view of the president or presidency, which would appear to have dug in now by saying that, look, it's our prerogative to handle this the way we are handling it. But there are problems. How do we wade ourselves? How do we wade through this? Because the president must listen to the population. The president must sit up and take notice when just about almost everybody is saying the same thing. Where does this leave us? Bearing in mind that professionalism, no doubt, will still be very, very important. But everybody is saying that, Mr. President, it's enough. These people need a change. I hope we didn't lose Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu.
Well, I will still come back to my argument that I slightly differ with the other guests
Yes.
that you interviewed.
Yes.
it has that check and balance are an inherent rule in a democracy. And with respect to control of the armed forces, the president and commander-in-chief has powers. But the powers should always be checked by the National Assembly. That is the best way. In fact, okay, we claim that I'll just give an example, that we practice democracy. Democracy, we practice American democracy. In the United States of America, it is clearly stated, just like it is in our Constitution, that the president should nominate and approval by Congress, in our case, National Assembly of the States. But I can tell you, in the subsequent legislation that have been passed many years over, even the qualifications of that who the president is going to nominate, length of time the people are going to stay, the necessity, if any, that's under which condition can the tenure be expanded, have been clearly stated in the relevant books. So much so that in such countries, it is even difficult. Yet is the debate we are holding, that it is time for one person to go out and over. Now, I'm not talking in specific individuals, but I'm talking as a system for the good of the military, for the interest of the service as well, for the interest of the country. It is good to have special in tenure.
But the presidency would appear to have rejected these premises by its response that, sorry, it's not on.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Yes. In all honesty, again, I'm this person. I don't think the presidency rejected. What I had the spokesman doing is explaining that it is the prerogative of the president to remove these people or to leave them. Yes. And like I earlier said, since there is no law.
And we the people are saying remove them.
Hello?
All right. Please continue.
Yeah. So what I had the presidential spokesman say, it is the prerogative. My point is that the power given to this president or any other president, as we currently have, does not have any check.
I take your point, good captain. We're going to have to leave it there. I take your point because, quite frankly, it's an emphatic one and it's clear. Yemi, I understood some of the things you were saying. That look, it's not cut and dried. For instance, you know, the whole matter of the age that you wouldn't want to be so pedantic about. It depends. So it's not a straightforward issue, and it also concerns a subject matter that, you know, not everybody knows as much about, as often is the case with these matters of policy.
Well, I actually have no problem with the position of the group captain, but we are talking about the present circumstances we find ourselves. I understand that indefinite assumption of office by service chiefs may even have some negative impact, you know, on the morale of the rank and file.
Okay.
For instance, I mean, naturally, when it comes to succession, there are those who will have thought, okay, after 18 months, 2 years, we should be in line to succeed, you know, the current chief. And then 2 years, 3 years after, you know, they are not considered, and then they reach retirement age. And even though they are junior, you know, to the incumbent, they get retired while somebody who ought to have retired before then is still in charge. I understand all those permutations, but we are saying, what I'm saying in essence is that the president has not flouted any law by retaining the service chiefs, but just like you put it, public opinion is also very, very important.
Indeed.
And in the sense, in the case that the president feels that the public is actually misled in their belief that changing of the service chiefs will remedy the security challenges that we have, it behoves on the president also to come out with convincing, logical arguments that will make the people understand why it seems to be prevaricating,
adamant, as
you
it
know,
were.
to
Okay,
take a
exactly.
decision one way or the other.
I want to thank you very much, Yemi. But stay with us, please. And Group Captain, I wanted to thank you very much for coming on and contributing to the subject matter, and also giving us the benefit of your perspective on it. Thank you very much, Group Captain.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we'll do now, we still have Mr. Mapadiron with us. We'll open up the phones and so we get some perspectives from the public out there. You see, this is not, well, democracy and all of that. In the US, for example, just for example, and then removing ourselves from this particular subject matter, you go to the court system, the judiciary in America, take the Supreme Court, for instance. Those guys go on forever. You know, that is the way their own law is set up.
Exactly.
The office is for life. It must be for a particular, they must have thought about it and decided that we don't want to be changing, justices of the ultimate court in the land in the US. It doesn't, they get old once they're still, active. They just lean on it. They just lean on the whole collection of a body of wisdom. I don't know, maybe the military is not like that. Maybe the older you get in the military, I don't know. I don't know.
I think they will also have retirement age, too. And then anytime they have a war situation, they can always, get
okay,
advice
you can bring them in from
the
reserves.
Exactly, But I think as is because of how the war against insurgency have been, going on, and now we have banditry.
Yes. Yeah, now, and people don't think that we're making
people,
much progress.
exactly,
Even though the presidency is claiming
insisting
that we have been making progress. Mazi Okorafor, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Sir.
Honestly, if I have my way, I'll just say the highest hierarchy in the army should be a major. Anything above major, everybody should wear. Let's strike this group of people. Why am I saying this? Because if you check well, the issue of insurgency is no longer a child play. It's now technological development with strategy. That's when you talk about not old strategy. That's folks who are ready to do what strategize them by minute, by second to move. Now you ask yourself, let's we see what happened. There was a killing of an American soldier in Afghanistan. Just one. You know what Trump did? At least you have the history. Now, in Nigeria, now you see the type of massacre in terms of Nigerian soldiers, which means the weapon of the insurgents are more sophisticated than Nigeria. Now, as I said, all the money Nigerian government said they are budgeting, what happened? Because most of these things, we see them on television, but they are not in action. It's not proactive action we are seeing. It's just paperwork, which is not. Because the earlier we trap these things, the better for us. Now, do you know that when you talk about food security, if the environment is not secured, the farmers cannot go to farm. If the environment is not secured, there is no development, there is no investors. Now, you see, when COVID-19 came, what happened in Nigeria? Many people see the opportunity to farm around their house, at least there will be surplus for this. Now, by the time COVID-19 will go, what will happen? But the federal government, Nigerian Senate, although the Senate are coming, the time of Senate arrival on this issue of the retire or not is very, very late. Why I'm saying very, very late? Because the Senate have been seeing what's happening. Now that it's affecting from per second, their village, their community, that is why they are doing that. But the thing is this, for we to move forward, and the federal government, the highest ranking should be a major. Let's strike him. Forget about this your general. General does not go to the war front. You only sit there in the office and give directives.
Okay, Mazi. Mazi, thank you very much, because we're running out of time. But
Burate has been ordered to go to the Northeast, so he should be there now as a general.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, Yemi, we've run out of time, and we just wanted to come back to you on this matter to also round off on it. The situation we have on the ground, the ball is now back in the president's court, and they would appear to have responded. But the National Assembly has done its job, as it were, voicing perhaps the sentiment of the majority of concerns, which is that maybe we'd get different results if we were to change the service chiefs. That seems to be what the Senate has, the National Assembly has actually done. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. And that is the view and opinion of most Nigerians also.
Okay.
That at least if you try to have a change, there is a likelihood that things may get better. It may get worse before it gets better.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Yemima Padirun, strategy and governance expert. And also our thanks to Group Captain Sadiq Garbalawa, who you heard earlier, who is a security consultancy issue. Stay with us, please. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, please. Okay, let's touch base with yesterday and the NDDC probe affair, and now we're sort of in the aftermath of it. We've heard from the even from the Speaker of the House of Representatives. You know, he has also commented on proceedings that went earlier. Now, our man Uche Okoro in Port Harcourt, he gives us an overview.
20 years of controversies revolving around allegations of corruption summarizes the last 20 years of the Niger Delta Development Commission since its establishment in the year 2000. Rural communities of the Niger Delta states show a region yearning for sustainable development that reflects the wealth generated from their land.
The region would ask for a better probe. We are still in support of the forensic audit, but this time we will request Mr. President to appoint the forensic auditors through the Auditor General of the Federation. Let the Auditor General conduct a forensic audit for us to see what is going on.
I also applauded government for taking the initiative to make sure that it gets to the root of the matter, so that let us know whether really this is just one of those kind of stories, or whether really there's actually the issue of diversion of fund meant to bring happiness to the greatest number of inhabitants of this resource-rich region.
The people make recommendations to the National Assembly and the Presidency to change the story of the NDDC and by extension, the oil-rich region that the agency represents.
It's a warning to those who have oversight functions to perform, that no matter what you do, a judgment day will come. That if you are one who compromises your positions, or one who decides that a situation of trust can become a veritable instrument of accumulation, appropriating revenues or other purposes of office, to yourself, rather than discharge your duties to the utmost of your responsibility and your ability, a day will come for reckoning.
As a Niger Delta leader, I don't have faith in the National Assembly anymore on this matter. They have been accused that most of the business, most of the contract, most of the embezzlement were done by them. Let them point themselves. Until they point themselves, we cannot believe them, we cannot trust them. That's the truth.
After past experiences of similar probes, Niger Delta stakeholders and indeed many residents are hopeful that this time around, the investigation of the NDDC will be pursued to its logical conclusion and all those found guilty of corruption punished irrespective of their status. Uche Okoro, TVC News, Port.
Thanks to Uche Okoro. Now we have with us on Skype this morning former President Ijo Youth Congress, a friend of the House, you can actually say, Dr. Chris Ekio. He's convener Integration Summit Group Nigeria. Good morning, Dr. Chris Ekio.
Good morning, my brother and friend.
Indeed. It's been quite a while. Now, I'm alongside Azukwa James in studio here, as you might be seeing. Let me just quickly jump into it. When all the brouhaha was going on, the sense of outrage, the sense of shock and surprise, all you guys were quiet. We didn't hear anything from all the quote-unquote freedom fighters, if they are activists. Yeah, that's a better expression. All the activists that we have long known in the Niger Delta area. Now here are assets allegedly being frittered and played with, And yet we didn't hear from those notable voices that we always heard from when it was a matter of the emancipation of the Niger Delta. First of all, would you agree, and what accounts for that?
Okay. The problem is that we have continued to face this kind of situation because the way and manner which our people are appointed into representing us is not without our input. If I take you through memory lane, everybody who has headed that agency, apart from a beam, Santimia, probably had no roots in our struggles. Don't even have an understanding of how the place came about. So for them, it's another political gratification, another opportunity like an MDA to make quick money, money to become governors, money to satisfy their godfathers. And unless and otherwise, our people are allowed to make input as to who head those parastatals and agencies that are deliberately created with a view to improving the region, we're going to go back and forward. You know, whereas I'm very angry with the MD, the acting MD of the IMC, the Minister of Nigerian Senate for their attitude, you know, they are also muzzled. I mean, if the acting MD has been appointed by some godfathers, then you know what will happen to him. He'd only have to dance into their tune, and that's what you're seeing. And that's been the pattern over the years. In Sima Ekere, Chris Obu, Ibim came and she pushed so hard, and then of course they kicked her out before he knew it. And I can tell you that most of the meaningful development.
Sorry, Chris, are you saying that there are some powerful individuals that we don't know that are pushing for them to go ahead and be, you know, doing all these things?
You know, let me tell you what happens.
Okay.
The act that established NDDC gives it power to do a whole lot in the region in terms of intervention. But when you then want to admit people into the board, there's also a spelled out procedure. Now, politicians will run around their political godfathers and they'll be positioned, strategically positioned as hawks in that agency, not with the primary motive to do what the act says. So from the beginning of their appointment till the end of their appointment, they just do what they have been asked to do. Now, the National Assembly will capitalize on that and also bring to bear their pressure as committee and begin to also take their own share of what it is. So it has been just a group of friends saturating themselves with power. So the mega jobs go to them. Now, what are we doing as a people? I'll tell you. When you become the chief executive of MDA, you have the Nigerian soldier, the Nigerian police, every of those security paraphernalia assigned to you to block out people like us who should tell you what you need to do. And when we start talking about you, you rent a crowd to start fighting us and you blackmail us to say it's because you did not see us or you didn't give us a job, so that's why we're talking. When we now start talking to the president through the media, they say we are fighting the government. Because we are not supporting the government. So it puts you in a very situation. You're telling the people the truth. You're telling Mr. President, this isn't the way to go. But politicians in Abuja are telling him this man is an enemy of the state. So most of the freedom fighters, the activists, and including freedom fighters, are looking at the political class.
Chris, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. We've run out of time, but I wanted to just ask you, as briefly as possible, what do you think of the forensic audit? Should it go on?
From the very first day they talked about it, I gave it a thumbs up. I said, so long as it be done by renowned audit firms that are international brands, and it will not interfere with the running of the affairs from the day of the audit. Because if you want to audit something, you are going to audit what happened before the appointment of the auditors. You can appoint a substantive board to do the job starting forward from today, say 1st of August. And everything that happened before 1st of August go through an audit process. Unfortunately, there is no audit going on as we speak. Otherwise, we will know who those auditing companies are, as it were. Nobody knows them. Nobody knows the transaction that happened. Nobody knows when they were procured. Instead, what we have seen is the National Assembly trying to now do the auditing. I think I commend them for this both that they have taken. Also come out clean, because he who comes to equity must come with clean hands.
We're going to have to leave it there, Chris. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Chris Ekio, former president of your Youth Congress and convener of the Integration Summit group. As you heard, they were the activists at the time, but he also explained that, well, now that the other people have taken over. So, but enough said about that, because we had to touch base with the activists in the area, and there are a number of them, quite frankly, that we sort of missed in action during all of this. Perhaps
exactly. I'm even surprised they've not been talking, and just like he said, the commission has now turned into a political arena where governors and anybody can just go there.
And the thing gets a bit complex.
Exactly.
But he's totally in support of the forensic audit. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we look at the PDP primaries in Ondo State, right?
Yes.
We've looked at the APC one. Let's come back and look at the PDP one. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and home stretch, Ondo PDP primaries. I guess those are the key words in there.
Yeah.
We'll be hearing from our man Ayo Ozubakun, who is on ground over there. He's the senior correspondent politics over there. We don't expect any surprises.
No, well,
do we?
No, we should. We should, because don't forget the former deputy governor actually moved to the PDP a month ago or so. And
when you say former deputy governor?
Former deputy governor.
Okay.
Who's
the new deputy governor?
No, they don't have yet. So.
But the man said he's going along with the rank. So the man actually is still
technically. Okay, yeah.
The deputy governor.
He's still the deputy governor. Yes,
but he's in a different party.
Yes, in a different party. He's still the deputy governor because he has not been impeached.
That's right.
And all that.
That's right. We
so
don't even have time for that story.
Yes,
the chief judge there threw it out when they tried to impeach him.
He's now in a different party.
Yes.
And
so
there are stories that he might likely be the one they will give the ticket or will win the primary. But we have some other big wigs in the PDP, like Eddie Oyefeso, who has been there for a very long time, and some other big people. So Ayo will be able to give us a perspective on how it will play out today.
Yeah. But the way the PDP is playing it, because remember, the day before yesterday, we spoke with the PDP spokesman there who was saying that, look, it's sort of a level playing field. The public might be picking and choosing their favorites, but they were saying that from their point of view, these are all credible, candidates, and they just didn't want to be baited in that way.
Exactly.
As to they didn't want to see the deputy governor as more special a candidate than all the other notable people.
Like what happened in Edo, that was just an easy sweep for the governor. So, it shows that it's going to be a very interesting primary today.
Okay, let's find out from Ayo himself. Ayo's ready now. Okay. Ayo's ready for us. Hey, Ayo, good morning. Ayo Zubakun.
Good morning, Yori.
Yeah, I'm alongside Asuko James here in studio.
Hey, Suko, Paris.
So give us a feel of what to expect today. Are we going to see some surprises, anything new or shocking that people will, because everybody is already talking about the deputy governor clinching the ticket.
Asuko, we might be in for a shocker if you told that line, because I will tell you that the difference between Edo and Ondo, their politics is kind of different. Okay. In Edo State, as at this time, the convention had not started. What they were trying to do, the PDP governors came together and they were piling pressure on other aspirants. And by 4 p.m., they started the convention. But they had succeeded in piling pressure on those aspirants to just step down for one person, that is Governor Obaseki. But in Ondo State, Ondo people are never say never. Because as at 2 a.m. yesterday, they were still meeting with the aspirants, still talking to them that the fewer the merrier that goes into this race. They have 8 aspirants. And
not the more the merrier. The fewer the merrier.
The fewer the merrier. Why? It will make it less cumbersome in terms of collation, sorting, and time involved.
Yes.
For this convention. So it's a very, very rigorous process. So we have the likes of Isayo Jegede, we have the likes of Diola Feso, and we have the new deputy governor just coming into the fray, but they're saying that this man is just coming, and there's no how we're going to leave a party we built in the last 4 years. So it's going to be very, very interesting, but expect a contest. I don't expect a situation whereby they're going to go into that place and a consensus will be declared like Edo State. There will definitely be a contest, and that contest will go on, and a candidate must emerge from the People's Democratic Party. But let me just veer up that one of our own, Dotun Ojon, he is from the Young Progressive Party. Dotun Ojon is one of our own in TVC, and it's so daring that Dotun had to go and take nomination form, not 1 million, not 2 million, not 3 million. He took his time. He went through the process. He has been campaigning across the 18 local government in Ondo State. Dotun, nice to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Dotun, I'm just looking at you and I'm like, how did you get here?
Yeah, this is a product of clear permutation on our part. We are not doing this because we just want to be popular. Of course, that's not the reason. We have seen the way things are going on in Ondo State, and we felt that at this point in time, somebody must come as a third force. Like you have said now, there's a major crisis within the fold of AC. There's a major crisis also brewing within the fold of PDP. So a lot of people are looking at, okay, who can we actually trust? And that's why we came on board. And our own has been a little bit different because in Ondo State now, as we speak, there are about 600,000 people with voters card that have never participated in any election. So what we did is we just came on board. We borrowed that from the governor of Kaduna, really. We came on board and we targeted this set of people that have never voted. And that's what we have done. If you enter Akure now, where we are, the Ondo State capital, you can just check the street, look at the billboards. There are only three. Either you belong to PDP, APC, or the Young Progressive Party. That's what we have done, and we've been able to move.
I tell you that this is a money-driven game. Do you have the financial wherewithal? Do you have the capacity? Can you stand shoulder to shoulder with parties like the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress?
I thank you so much because you said something about Ondo State being totally different. Because this is a repetition of history of what has happened. If you notice history from 1999 in Ondo State, 1999, 2 people contested, 1 lost, the other one won. In 2003, the person that lost came back, that's Olusegun Agagu, and actually won. But in 2007, a new person came on board, and that's exactly what is playing out now. You discover that the sitting governor has contested before, lost, came and contested again and won, but now it's not going to win. A new person is going to come on board. So when you talk about financial capacity, as a person, we may not have the financial capacity, but when you hit the street, you see a lot of people who are willing to bring down their 200 naira, and that's why we've been able to move across the entire local government. That's why we've been able to comb the entire political world in Ondo State. So there's going to be a lot of factors beyond money that are going to play that are going to play out. One of them that I must quickly mention to you is the fact that this is perhaps the first time in Ondo State that the entire student populace, both within the state and outside the state, are in the house. And when you check the education system of Ondo State, of this present government, it has not been favorable. So we are banking on the support of the huge number of students, the huge number of youth that are in their houses now because of this COVID-19. So we are actually spending less than what an average professional politician will spend. And we are making a huge impact.
Before I let you go, when you look at what it takes, it's always what we are going to get from it at any given word, at any way you've gone on campaign and everything. How have you been able to take your messages to those areas without giving them a dime?
You know, incidentally, you and I talked about it. It's not been free to become governor of Ondo State, and I must say that we are also financially prepared, because when we set out, I'm sorry because I have to mention some figures. When we set out, we did a research, and the research shows that for us to win, despite the fact that we are being prudent, that we need between 800 million and 1.2 billion, and we are not running away. 800 million and 1.2 billion. We are not running away from the fact that we are going to spend, but we are not going to spend like the professional politicians that the way they are spending. But we have spent a lot, and at the end of the day, you see, apart from the primaries elections that will happen this week,
how many delegates are you bringing to Akure?
We are bringing about 200 delegates to Akure for our primaries.
You alone?
Yes, that will happen on Saturday.
You have to mobilize them. You have to accommodate them.
It's a normal thing that you mobilize the people, you accommodate them. It's a normal thing that you feed them. We are not running away from some of these realities. But what we are laying emphasis on is that we are not going to spend like the ordinary professional politician. But that does not mean that we are not spending. And see, a lot of people are buying naturally into our idea. What are we bringing on board? Leadership. Just leadership. We just said that when they ask us, what do you want to do? It's very simple for us to convince them. We only tell them that this is what we want to do. We want to change the direction of leadership from power to people. The current direction of leadership in Ondo State is about power, where the father wants to be the governor, the mother wants to be the deputy governor, the son wants to be the chief of staff. We are only changing that to bring people at the center of leadership purpose. And a lot of people are buying into this. It's quite unfortunate that with the resources we have, that will be at this level, people are aware. A lot of the projects that have been executed, no doubt about that, the present government has executed a number of projects, but he's totally disconnected from the people he's governing. So when they see a young man like
Ayo, I got to come in now. Ayo, I got to come in now. You guys, it's so interesting, but you've eaten up all the time, and we must go. Ayo, thank you very much. Quite exciting in there, but we've come to the end of it.
Yes,
so,
over to you, Dotun. Yes, we are excited that at least young people are going into politics, and not just young, but somebody who was from the TVC.
There you go.
And it's going to be very interesting.
There you go.
The election.
So that's our program then. We'll see how it goes. It looks like they've arranged everything properly.
Yes.
The arrangements are tight. So we got to leave it here. Thank you very much for staying with us, and we give our thanks to, where we started off with Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, security analyst, as well as Mr. Yemi Makmade, Dr. Christopher Ekio, and now Ayodele Ozubeku, and indeed the young hopeful.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for staying with us. Join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. On behalf of Asuku and I, bye-bye for now.